We are recording the interview of Chase Abbey. This interview is being conducted by David Berry, James Hale, and Katora Edwards from the Wright State University Veteran Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Champaign County Aviation Museum in Urbana, Ohio. It is 10 a.m. on May 2nd, 2017. So why don't we get in, Chase, where and when were you born?
So I was born in Springfield, Ohio at Community Hospital. Now flattened, I found out just the other day. But it was 1996, February 23rd. I have no idea what time I was born.
And who were your parents and what do they do?
My dad's name is Daniel Matthew Abbey. Over the course of the last 20 years, he's been going to school to be a nurse, and he finally achieved that. Now he's on his way to become a doctor. And my mom's always worked at Honda. Her name's Dawn Michelle Zirkle.
And then, do you have any siblings?
Oh yeah. So I have two younger brothers. I'm the oldest. My middle brother is Liam Matthew Abbey. He just turned 16 and got his license. And then there's Griffin Michael Abbey. Just turned 13. Pretty smart kid. Just got into the STEM school in Springfield. He's the one that, says he wants to do exactly what I've done and be in the Air National Guard and go for engineering and all that sort of stuff.
What's a STEM school?
The STEM school is it's at the old South High School in Springfield, Ohio. They've renovated it. It's a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics school. So he goes to school here in Urbana right now at the junior high, but he's just excelled with his math, science, so they gave him that opportunity. He applied and got accepted. So
wow. That's great.
Quite the achievement.
So you're the oldest then?
I am the oldest, yeah. It's rough.
You got to lead by example, eh?
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell me about before you joined. What were you doing?
Really from an early age, I was always hanging out with my grandpa. He's always had old cars, a couple old Corvettes, and I've always helped tinker with them. We've restored a few cars. Always went to car shows, just kind of grew up around older people, older customs. And then when I was 11, my grandpa actually brought me here to the Champaign Aviation Museum. And ever since then I've been volunteering on the B-17 restoration project. Which honestly, between my grandpa and the project, that's really what put me where I am today. I was pretty shy when I was younger. Just being around the people here has taught me to kind of loosen up, and it's taught me to talk and how to carry on a conversation. I've learned to use a bunch of tools, read blueprints. I've even got to fly a couple airplanes here and there. It's just been a great thing to be a part of. And in that time, I've taken a couple of aviation occupations courses in high school, which really came from my love of this project. And after talking to a few people, and a lot of the veterans here who served in the Air Force, I kind of decided that was the track that I wanted to go on. So I debated if I wanted to do ROTC, because I was really intrigued by flying. I really wanted to be a pilot. So I was looking for a way to become commissioned. I knew it was a long process. I knew I was going to have to go to college for 4 years. So I looked at ROTC. I looked at just going straight through school and trying to commission that way. And then I graduated high school, and I was really frustrated because my ACT score was a 28. It was one below what Air Force ROTC wanted everywhere. So I couldn't get in there. I didn't have a whole lot of money to get me through school, so I was like, man, what am I gonna do? Well, one of the volunteers here actually told me about the Ohio Air National Guard. Took a trip down there with a recruiter, went to BEPS, found out I was colorblind, so I actually can't fly. But since then, I think it was June 20th of 2014, I went ahead and enlisted. I'm in the 269th Combat Communications Unit, and I'm going to school at Wright State for mechanical engineering. So really, growing up with my grandpa and being a part of all these projects, getting involved with aviation has really pushed me down the track that I'm going now. So I hope to graduate with my mechanical engineering degree, and I hope to commission as an officer in the United States Air Force at some point.
Wow. That sounds like you got a lot planned out.
Yeah.
So let's back up for a minute. And you said that your grandpa brought you here to the Champaign Aviation Museum when you said you were around 9 or 11?
9, 10, 11, somewhere in there.
Were there any moment, or was anyone that you met while you were here, any conversations that kind of come or boil up to the surface of being really memorable in your in reasons why you wanted to join the military or why you enjoyed the veteran community?
Oh, there's an unlimited amount of stories that I've heard. I've had the wonderful opportunity to talk to Art Camp. He was a tail gunner on a B-17. You know, I've talked to everybody from every conflict, basically. World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I mean, it's just amazing. Randy Kemp over here was a crew chief on a B-52. Hearing stories about how they would kind of play with the Russians and their airspace and stuff like that. It's just awesome to see, you know, what our military can do. You know, all branches are great. Something about the Air Force, just the stories I've heard, being a part of the machinery that they used in World War II, it's just something that's always intrigued me. I don't really have one single story that stands out, but just everything I've heard is just, you know, and high school has just always pulled me towards the Air Force. I don't really know exactly what it was. But.
Did your grandpa serve in the military?
No, he actually, coming out of high school, well, a few years after high school, he graduated in 1960, so a few years later, they were drafting for Vietnam, and he was actually looking at joining the Air Force, or he was going to work at International Harvester. So he had two contracts that he had his international contract in front of him. He was going to be a electrician apprentice. So he had that contract, and he took it to the Air Force recruiting office because he thought, well, I don't want to get drafted, I just want to enlist and do my service, go to Vietnam and get out. So he brought the contract to the Air Force recruiter. The Air Force recruiter sent him to go do his medical and everything. My grandpa found out that he was flat-foot. So the recruiter just shredded his Air Force contract up there, threw it in the trash, and he said, go be an electrician. And that's really what he did. He did that for 47 years, and while he was doing that, he's always been restoring cars, and for the last 10 years, he's been working on this project also. It's pretty much like a dad. He's very mechanically inclined, and I think that's probably the reason I'm going for mechanical engineering.
You said that you were colorblind. Does that mean you can't get your civilian pilot's license?
I can. So the military and the FAA with the private pilots, they have a different color vision test. Initially, they gave the same one with the booklet. I failed 2 of the red-green colorblind ones on the military's booklet. I did the same for the civilian booklet, but then they also told me there was 2 other testing options. One where they can shine lasers at you, different colored lasers, and if you can tell them what color the laser is, you pass. Or you can also go out to a tower somewhere and they can do a light test there. And I've actually passed the laser test, no problem. Just really faint shades throw me off, but if it's a really defined red, green, white, you name it, I mean, I can tell you what it is. So I'll eventually be a private pilot, I hope. I've grown up with it here. I've flown a few of the airplanes here, and it's definitely something I want to do down the road, here in the near future, hopefully.
So, Before you were getting ready to leave for basic, how did your family feel about you joining the military?
So my dad knew exactly, ever since I was in 7th grade, I knew that I wanted to be an Air Force officer. Obviously I had no idea how I was going to get to that point. I had no idea I was going to be in the Air National Guard. I had no idea I was going to be involved in communications, combat communications especially. So my dad was really, he was very much so for me being in the military. He's the kind of person that's always thought it was kind of your duty if you're able. So he always pushed me to do it. My mom, on the other hand, was not liking it at all. So unfortunately, I kind of kept it on the down low from her. And I didn't tell my mom until I came home the day I enlisted. And I just kind of dropped it on her. I was like, Mom, I enlisted in the Ohio Air National Guard. And I feel bad about it because she cried for a little while and I felt horrible. She asked me like what unit or platoon I was in. She doesn't know. Air Force uses units. I told her I was in the 269 Combat Communications Unit, and she lost it even more. Even though I haven't deployed, I haven't seen much yet. My grandparents, obviously my grandpa who's in here, he's always been supportive of that. My mom's mom, my grandma on that side, she didn't really like it, but now I think she's seeing what's become of it, and she's pretty supportive of it. And then unfortunately my grandma on my dad's side, on the Abbey side, she was no longer with us when I enlisted. And then my grandpa on my dad's side, he loves it. I had an uncle who was Marine Corps for 23 years. It was actually my dad's dad, my grandpa Abbey's oldest son. He just loved it. He loved seeing the things that he got to do. So he was all for any branch of the military, really. So
do you think that played an effect or a part on like kind of your mindset or your psyche going into the military? It sounds like you had it on both sides of some positive, some negative.
Yeah, really, I realized coming out of high school, it's my career, it's what I want to do. If somebody wants to give me a positive input on it, it's just gonna, kind of encourage me to do it. And if, between my mom and my grandma, her mom, they didn't want me to do it, I kind of realized it's something I've always wanted to do. I think it's the right thing to serve your country if you can do it. There's a chance for me to get an education, go to a couple different trade schools, really just do what I wanted to do. So I wasn't going to let two people's opinion hold me back, even though it was kind of upsetting to see my mom cry. Now she's a little more supportive of it.
So, tell me more about basic. Do you remember any of the drill sergeants, or are there any good stories that come to mind?
Absolutely. So, we got off the plane at the San Antonio airport, and I was really expecting to be met by a drill sergeant right off the plane. Thinking back, I don't know how they would have managed to track everybody down in civilian clothes right off the airplane. The funny thing was, we all had a manila envelope full of all of our medical information that we needed to turn in as soon as we got there. And that was like the key identifier of who was going to Air Force basic training. So you're walking through the airport with this manila envelope, just waiting for somebody to yell at you. Well, I thought I was smart, and I put mine in my backpack. So I'm just walking around, civilian clothes, and I thought, well, there's a McDonald's here. I'll eat at McDonald's, so I get one last, real meal, I thought, before I start getting yelled at and this gets real. Well, apparently one of the MTIs saw me put the envelope in my backpack. So I basically got approached from behind, and I just got grabbed and basically drug over into the line, and that's when it all started. From there, we really just waited in line. They put us on a bus, and we showed up to Lackland. We did some in-processing. I remember that took forever. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning and we were still up, knowing full well that we were going to have to be up early again. So that was kind of a shock. But the one thing I'll remember is we didn't really know where we were at. You know, we saw these big, large buildings. First time on the base, had no idea what the dorms looked like. So we thought, well, maybe this big in-processing room, maybe there's like some dorm rooms here or something. Maybe that's where we're gonna stay. Nope. They put us outside, got us on a couple more buses. I remember that there was 2 buses. The first bus filled, and there was 3 of us just standing there. And we're getting screamed at. Get on the bus, get on the bus. Well, there is no bus at this point. So we have no idea what to do. We're freaking out. There's no bus, and we're getting told to get on the bus. You know, you're still a civilian. You're just confused. Well, thankfully, another bus pulls up, and they tell us to go all the way to the back, and there's only 3 of us, so it's kind of an awkward ride. It's really quiet. We drive around a little bit, and we finally pull up to the training area where you can see the squadrons and everything, and you see a bunch of the new people getting off the bus, getting screamed at. Well, we just kept driving and driving and driving, and eventually I got that sick to my stomach feeling. All of a sudden, I know everybody else had the same feeling because we knew we were pulling up to our dorm, and it was something like out of the movie. It was pitch black outside. And in the Air Force, there's like a training pad underneath, or at least in the old dorms. I don't know about the new dorms. There's like a training pad underneath, and the dorms are actually lifted up on top. And underneath is lit. So there's like this yellow lighting. And I just remember seeing my MTIs with their brim down. You can't see their face. It looks like all their faces are black. Just sitting there with their arms crossed, and I thought, oh my God. Here we go. So the first bus, you know, you can hear them ripping into the first bus. Hurry up, get off the bus. And then there's like this pause, like a 5-minute pause. It was really awkward because the first bus just drove away, and I'm on the second bus, and there's only 3 of us in the back of this bus. Well, then this really skinny MTI walks up on the bus. You know, he's grabbing every seat on his way back. I can't see his face still because his hat's pulled down so far. And I remember my heart was just beating. He walked right up, got in my face, just standing up straight. He looked like a really nice guy, honestly, when I could see his face. You know, he said, "How you gentlemen doing today?" "Good, sir." He said, "Well, I'm not a sir. I'm a drill sergeant." And then he just lost it. "So you can get off my bus." And I have never got off. I think I jumped over 3 seats along with everybody else. And you know, that's really when it all started for me. I'll never forget being on the bus. It just went, it was like a light switch. You know, "How are you gentlemen doing?" And then it was, "Get the hell off my bus." So that's something that'll always stick with me.
Pretty big culture change there.
Yeah, it was definitely a culture shock when I got there.
So how was it adjusting to the military life when you got there, adjusting to the barracks and the food and the training?
Honestly, at first, the hardest thing to adjust to, I think, was the yelling, probably. Just a constant, somebody always in your ear, or just always hearing somebody else right next to you get ripped, and then, you know, they get ripped, and then they look at you, and it's like, "Well, why didn't you help him out? It's your fault too." And then you get another 5-minute spiel. You know, when you just want to be doing what they're telling you to do, that's hard enough already. But eventually I caught on. Yelling became talking. I just kind of broke down what they were saying, and I just kind of gave them this blank stare that they wanted. And then I realized that a lot of the things that they were having you do, they weren't giving you enough time on purpose from the get-go. I almost thought there was something wrong with me along with everybody else because we couldn't do the task and the amount of time that they gave us. So I learned just to kind of take the beating for a while, and then from kind of talking to some other people when you had the chance, you know, you could whisper here and there at church or something on a Sunday, you know, from an older flight, they kind of told you that things got better. So I just stuck with it, and they did. They became better. We stopped getting yelled at so much. And it just happened. You were forced to become accustomed to it. it really wasn't too bad to me. I really didn't think it was too bad.
So, moving on from basic, did you go to like an AIT, or I'm not quite sure what the Air Force?
I did. So after basic, you have like a 2-week. I don't even know what they call it now. It's changed. It used to be Airman's Week or something like that. It might still be. It's like a 2-week grace period where they kind of give you. I don't want to say a time to like decompress, but it's kind of like a 2-week course where they show you what the real Air Force is kind of be like, what to expect in your tech school, and that was at Lackland also. It was just in a separate set of dorms. So I finished that, and then they put us on a bus from there at the end of the 2 weeks, and I went over to Keesler Air Force Base over in Biloxi, Mississippi, for my cybersecurity technical training school. And from there, I completed what they call it, Information Technology Fundamentals. That was a 2-week course, and then I jumped into my main course with the cybersecurity. Learned a ton there. Some of the brightest individuals, I think, probably in the country are there when it comes to cybersecurity. And then came the CompTIA Security Plus certification. That was quite the test. As soon as we got off the bus, we started hearing about how hard this test was. I was very, very nervous because I chose a career field that I really had no knowledge on, no additional knowledge. I was just the average person. You know, I knew how to turn a computer on, turn it off. I knew how to use Microsoft Word and Internet Explorer. That was really it. On occasion, I could like successfully install a game. I mean, I really did not know that much about computers. So I was nervous. I completed the first 2 schools, IT Fundamentals, Cybersecurity, but then came the CompTIA Security Plus, which, being in the National Guard, if I completed this, I got to go home. So there was a lot of pressure. I remember there was about a 30% pass rate there, and they had about 200 people test at the same time. And man, I just remember one of the lieutenant colonels, Lieutenant Colonel Young down there, telling me, your career field has the lowest pass rate out of everybody for that test. And I was like, good God, man, how am I gonna pass this test if I have no computer knowledge, and the only people I see passing are basically like computer geeks, like people I would assume to be nerds, like in civilian life. So that's really when I think other than basic training, that's when like the team bonding kind of came in, because I learned very quickly, if you don't know something, you better get with somebody that knows it, and you better learn it with them. And that's what I did. They had like a crash course for 2 weeks. Went to that during the day, and then literally studied for probably 20 hours a day for 2 weeks with these guys, and passed. Went home after that. It was a big relief. I mean, I remember that test was difficult. Gave a lot of people anxiety. I remember before we went to test, we had to take off our blouses. They checked all of our pockets and everything, made sure we had nothing that we could cheat with. I remember a couple kids got sick just because they were so worried about the difficulty of the test and whether they were going to go home or not. And if not, how long they were going to get held there. And it was amazing. I remember they had network problems the week before, so they had some kids who actually passed the exam, but then the network went down while their congratulations you have passed thing was up on the screen, and they didn't have time to print it off, so they actually had to test again. And some of them who passed failed the second time, so they were there forever. So I remember as soon as mine passed, or as soon as I finished the test, it was nerve-wracking because there was a survey, and you kept hitting next, and you were like, oh, did I pass? And it was these survey questions. There's 12 times that you did that. You were just waiting to see what your score was. And finally I just clicked again, and the smallest Times New Roman font said, congratulations, you passed. And I remember I thought about that network going down last week, And I shot my hand up and I was like, I need this printed right now. And then from there, I just took the paperwork up to my instructor, and he told me congratulations and took pictures, and I packed and went home the next day. That was really it.
So then, moving on from your specialty training, what you went back home to your guard base here?
Yes, I actually got put on what they call seasoning days. So I spent 60 days on orders, actually with my unit, getting to know my supervisors a little bit better. Just getting to know where things were at, and then I also began to learn how to use our equipment. I learned quickly that the equipment that we were taught on in tech school isn't necessarily exactly what you're going to be using when you get to your assigned duty station. So I got used to the equipment, and then eventually I accepted another job. So I was working 2 jobs. I was actually doing cybersecurity, and then I was doing what they call JISC, which is like a Joint Incident Site Communications Capability Team for the Homeland Response Force here in Ohio. I did that for about 1.5 years, and I'm still doing the cyber security stuff.
So what does kind of a normal duty day look for you?
Well, on our guard weekends, we show up there around 5 in the morning. Really, I assume it's like an active duty day. We PT. It might start a little bit later than an active duty day. We PT in the mornings. We hurry up, shower. We get briefed up on what we're going to be doing for the day. I guess the only difference really from active duty is a lot of what we do is training for deployments. That's really our only job, is at any point in time be as ready as you can be to deploy. So that's really all it is. We train up during the day. I just got to the point now where I'll be a trainer instead of a trainee, so that's kind of going to be a weird transition for me here in the next month or 2. Yeah, you just carry out your training, get the objectives done that your supervisors wanted you to accomplish. At the end of the day, you just kind of write up a report on what you did. In between all that, you know, just like active duty, you have to go get immunizations and drug tests. Sometimes you have to do an actual PT test. There's training courses that you'll have to go to here and there. So they keep you busy. That's really all it is every day.
So, what kind of training is it? I mean, you say that you guys are constantly preparing to deploy.
So our biggest asset really is going to be the servers that we have. Basically, if we were to deploy as a unit, like an entire unit, we would pick all of our equipment up, and it would go overseas with us. And then with our equipment, we would basically be supporting a network for Air Force, Army, Navy if they were on the ground, Marine Corps, basically anybody who needs network services is who we would provide for. But it's interesting because it's in a combat environment, so it looks funny because everybody's carrying around a weapon and they're working on the computers and stuff.
Does that make you nervous at all, that if you were to deploy that you'd be working on computers and without a weapon, or? No,
I love it, honestly. If call me crazy, but I mean, if I ever saw combat, I mean, I don't know. I honestly would probably feel better about the deployment. I don't know what it is. Everybody does their part over there, and everybody's part is equally important, but there's just something in my mind that would make me feel like I did something maybe even a little bit more important. That's just me.
Well, you never know. You may get your question answered.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been in now? I think you might have been.
Going on 3 years. 3 years this June.
So, in that time, what kind of friendships, or you talked about the kind of the unit cohesion during the to prepare for the test?
Yeah.
Has anything transferred into your unit?
Once I got back to my actual unit, a lot of the people are older. There are probably about, well, I don't want to go into numbers, but there are some younger people in there who are my age. mid-20s or so. But getting back, I kind of had to learn how to deal with people who are like a little bit older, who are professionals, who are looking at me as somebody who doesn't know anything. I eventually got past that. Pretty good friends with everybody in there. Once I took the job with the GISC team, I think that's when I became really close with a few individuals there, mainly because we were taking trips to a multitude of different places in support of the Army or the Marine Corps. We did the Republican National Convention. We were there for 2 weeks doing security and support for that. So, you know, in that amount of time, I have gotten really close to people. Now that my time's up with that job, you know, you only get a year and a half. It was kind of heartbreaking that I had to let some of those guys go. They went back to their career fields in the unit, and I went back to mine. I still stay in touch with them. I go to school with a lot of them at Wright State. So I honestly think those will be friendships that I'll have my entire life.
Is there anyone in your unit going to Wright State with you now?
Oh, absolutely. There's probably, well, I'm trying to think. Zach Shannon works in the VMC. There's probably 5 or 6 other people I see on a regular basis. Just say hi to them every day, and it's like, I'll see you on our drill weekends. I mean, that helps me become a lot closer friends with them too, I think. You would think that you would only see these people once a month, but I see them every day. We make a point of it.
Now, if they were to deploy you now, would you have to take a pause in your schooling, or would they allow you to finish out the semester?
Yeah, I would have to take a pause in schooling. From my understanding, they have to give me a 6 months heads up, basically, which works out perfect because the semesters are only 4 months long. So no matter where you're at in schooling, you'll have enough time to say, hey, I got to stop after this semester, and then get ready to go. So it's not really something I'm worried about because, you know, we're always being drilled, but we have to be ready. I honestly look forward to my first deployment. I'm kind of excited. I want to deploy. I want to go do something overseas.
So what's the next step for you? It sounded like you had a very planned out in the beginning. You're going to school, you're in the Guard. Is officer school next thing on your list? Or?
Yeah, so I moved along pretty quick. I haven't even been in for 3 years yet, and I'll be putting on senior airman. So I'm already a 3-striper, so I feel pretty good about the enlisted side. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp already on how that's going. I'll be a staff sergeant in a year from this weekend, actually, as long as I complete all my required courses. I'm hoping to be a tech sergeant by the time my enlistment's done. I don't know, we'll see. I'll either be a staff or a tech. But then, yeah, from there, I hope to finish my mechanical engineering degree and then start looking into whether or not I want to try to commission and go active duty as an officer. I've actually kind of looked at transitioning maybe to aircraft maintenance because I eventually want to move on to my master's in aerospace engineering. So I'm just trying to find something right now that'd be a good correlation. Obviously, you don't get to go in and just necessarily pick exactly what you want to do, but I do think they kind of look at your degree and try to place you based on your test scores with what you want to do. So I'm debating whether or not I want to go active duty or if I want to stay in the Guard and then just work at an engineering job throughout the week. That's really my plan. Either go active duty as an officer, stay in the Guard as an officer. I want to get my master's in aerospace and then possibly work during the week as an engineer if I'm not active duty. So.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah. I want to retire from 2 things at once. So I definitely plan on staying 20 years in the military.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
definitely something I know I like it that much. So.
Great. Well, I mean, being in the Guard, you have a unique opportunity of getting to serve and be at home at the same time.
Absolutely.
Other than working here at the, or volunteering here at the Champaign Aviation Museum, are you involved in any other veteran organizations, or?
Honestly, no, not really. I've looked at joining the Civil Air Patrol, joining as like a second lieutenant, just to kind of help mentor some younger kids and see if I can get them to kind of follow the same track that I did. I honestly think between this project and the Air National Guard, helping me get through school and really getting me on track while allowing me to serve, I think it's by far the best thing I've ever done in life. So, you know, if I can do that and get the opportunity to kind of steer some kids in the direction that I went in, the general direction that I went in, that's something I would really like to do. But other than that, no, I'm not really involved in any other veteran programs. I think I would like to be, if I could find one. This Veterans Voices, I might actually be interested in. So.
Well, it sounds like you're already leading your brother.
Yeah, it's you know, it's really an awesome feeling having my youngest brother look at me and tell me that he wants to be in the Air Force, Air National Guard, that he wants to go for mechanical engineering and then have a master's in aerospace, and be a propulsion technician and all that type of stuff. So it's just good to know that I'm doing something that somebody else thinks is great, that might be what they want to do because they see the hard work paying off.
And then I only have a couple more questions for you. How has your military experience so far impacted your feelings about war in the military?
Honestly, everything that I've seen has really been from the better. I hear a lot of people say, you know, we're overseas for no reason, we're over there just for ourselves. You know, my thought process, and it's not just what I think, it's what I see. I've seen so many times where we've helped people over there, and I've yet to really see any actions that we've taken where we're really hurting somebody over there. You know, I feel like everything we're doing is for the better. That's really just all. I'm all for it. You know, I love what we're doing. I think what we're doing is the right thing, and I'll do anything I have to do to support that. So.
Great. And then, is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview?
No, not really. I think that's about it.
Well, then I
haven't done much yet. I hope to do more.
I got one last question. Last but not least, what message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview?
Don't be afraid to serve your country. Something I know a lot of people regret not doing. It's really for the better, for yourself and for your country as a whole. Don't second guess it. If you're able-bodied, do it. It'll impact the rest of your life for the better.
Well, this concludes our interview. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to do this interview, and thank you for your service.
My pleasure.